What's up, guys? Phil here, and welcome to another episode of my podcast. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Phillip Velayo. I'm a former Marine Corps Scout sniper turned professional competitive shooter, and I just enjoy teaching people not only about the art of precision rifle shooting, but also, how to navigate one's journey in life, especially considering, my journey as a sniper has not been that cookie cutter route. Anyways, in this episode, I'm still kind of all over the map trying to figure out specific topics that I want to hone in on. But to get an episode out, I just wanted to recap the most recent gap grind that I just shot with my intern Dakota, as well as some tips with traveling with a firearm, with it being the 2024 PRS finale coming up for those that might be traveling for the for that match. And I also talk about some benchmarks for performance, especially like my benchmarks of like every time I pick up a precision rifle, this is what I try to strive and aim to be. So hopefully you get some value out of this episode. If you guys are on the road listening to this, if you guys are in the reloading room, hope you guys have a safe journey to wherever you guys are going. Thanks for listening to my podcast and enjoy the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 3. And I've got a few notes here that I have with my running list. But the first thing I want to talk about is I'm probably going to start releasing podcasts on Fridays just because Whiteboard Wednesday is really taking off and I'm enjoying doing those. It's a lot to try to edit that and a podcast or do a podcast by Wednesday. And I'm actually just trying to figure out a better schedule with when to record these. But I think Fridays work out anyways for launches because most of my listeners are in the precision rifle community anyways. So you guys are either in the reloading room listening to this, getting ready for training that week. You guys are on the road for a precision rifle match, or you guys are, maybe listening to this the following week as you guys commute for work or whatnot. So, yeah, let me know if down in the comments if Fridays work for you guys. But depending on the consistency, again, I'd like to have obviously other shooters on board as I continue to expand. But one of the things that I do not want to give up on is the quality or at least a video podcast. That's important to me just because I think there's just a lot of value to be able to watch somebody and their mannerisms and stuff like that. I get a lot of value lately from watching podcasts versus listening to them. But I understand a lot of you guys that are commuting to work to just throw on a podcast, whatever the case is. So second thing I do want to talk about is thanking you guys again for the response for episodes 1 and 2. I'm the first to tell you that I don't have it all figured out, but I'm glad that I'm able to relate with a lot of you shooters out there, especially a lot of the dads that have kind of resonated with my story. First and foremost, I'm going to say that I look up to all the dads that are out there sharing the moments with their kids and coming out there and shooting these events with their kids. Because, to be able to try to wear a competitor hat, a dad hat, a coach hat is, you guys are the real MVPs and the heroes. And so it's cool to see those exchanges. The dads that come to mind are Brentwood out here in Wyoming, as well as Brad Thompson. You guys are studs, and your kids are lucky to have you guys as dads, as well as Nick Schnur. I just shot with him and Isaac over the past weekend. Nick and I are teammates. We both shoot for Short Action Customs, but it was just super cool to see that relationship. And one of the things that I hold on to for me, for a core memory is my dad and I would go on fishing trips. We didn't shoot much. We only shot maybe once or twice outside of that range of Anchorage. I think it's Rapid Creek. But, most of my childhood, I remember, going fishing with him. And fishing was a huge thing for us. We would go anywhere between 10 to 12 times over the summer, going to Kenai, Russian River, Seward, Nilchik, Montana Creek, Willow Creek. And one or two out of those weeks, it would just be me and my dad. So that's something I look forward to hopefully being able to share with my son that's inbound. And again, thanks to everyone that have commented and congratulated Claire and I. We're super excited to have little Phil on the way, and it's going to be a hell of an experience to just be able to kind of redo that at my age. So, anyways, I wanted to record this podcast last night after dinner, with it being right now Friday afternoon or Friday morning. And, we got done with dinner, and I had set up the podcast studio already prior to dinner. And, once we get back, Claire was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to record a podcast," because she knows how important it is for me to kind of just be consistent with it. And that's one thing that we've talked about. And she's like, "I haven't even seen you all day," and me playing stupid, like, "Of course you see me all day, like, or you see me, like, we both work from home. Like, she has her studio upstairs and I'm downstairs in the basement studio." She's like, "That's not what I meant." And I know exactly what she meant. I'm just being stupid. But I appreciate it about her just because she definitely brings up moments of, like, hard conversations, but it allows to get what she's feeling off her chest. And so, I was able to, like, kind of just put my ego aside. I'm like, okay, hey, I need to show up for her right now because she needs me, just because, number one, she's probably going through emotions as with her pregnancy, but number two, she has had a lot of friction at work, with her business growing. She's doing really well. She's killing it as, the art director. But in preparation for the baby coming, obviously she's going to be taking some time off work. So they're kind of getting ready for that. So there's a lot of just moving parts behind the scenes of, like, getting other contractors trained up to do her job for the months that she's gone. And so those moments of just being able to sit and hear her, kind of air out her grievances, or her feelings. And also, with, being pregnant, there's social media is just one of those things that, like, when she scrolls through it, sometimes, like, she'll just, like, read the worst that could possibly happen with a pregnancy. So, like, just being able to comfort her, and that's kind of her love language. So, I'm saying that I'm proud of myself from being able to, like, okay, hey, I need to be here for this moment, because she supports me in everything that I do. So, this is a friendly reminder to you guys out there. And if you've got, any other tips or tricks for those that have been in super long-term relationships, married for 20, 30 plus years, please comment below. I'd love to hear it because, again, I think, having a partner at this age is super important for my growth as not only as a father, but, as a significant other and as a human being. So, yeah, I think that's just a friendly reminder to, happy wife, happy life, as they say it. So, so they're, her and her best friend, are out riding right now. Sarah's in town. And that's one thing that, with us working this weekend and me catching up with some client work, it kind of sucks not to be able to give Sarah a better experience with her time in Wyoming, because she lives in Alaska right now. But she understands, especially with everything we've got going on, getting ready for the baby. But yeah, now I want to talk about the gap grind. So if you're unfamiliar with the gap grind, again, Dakota and I just shot it. We were prepping for it for the last, like, 3 to 4 months, and we didn't get as much training as we wanted to out of it, just because of everything that was been going on with work. And, it was just super hot in the summer, all these things. We were able to shoot one local match. I wanted to shoot one more 2-day match just because I knew that, me training him under the clock of, like, my timer is going to be different than actually, like, game time. So that was one of the things that did show from the gap grind. But anyways, the gap grind, if you're unfamiliar with it, it's pretty much a professional amateur shoot. You pair up and you essentially shoot kind of the same course of fire. But, pros have a different set of targets and AMs have a bigger set of targets. But I think it's a really great way to, number one, get back to the sport as a professional shooter. And number two, to, lower the barrier to entry for shooters to get into the precision rifle shooting sport. My first time there, and I was definitely blown away by just how well organized and ran it was. And I'm not surprised because it's ran down at K&M. I've been to K&M several times now, and Shannon just runs a really great show down there. And it's super flawless, but more importantly, a huge shout out to all the ROs that spent their weekend, making sure that we ran a very fun and safe event. And it was super cool to be able to meet a lot of the ROs that watch and follow my content and stuff like that. I definitely appreciate you guys taking the time to, number one, introduce yourself, but B, talk to me that you are watching, the stuff that I'm putting out on YouTube. It really means a lot. But really, you guys were the MVP that weekend. So thank you for your guys' sacrifice. And hopefully one of these days I'm able to share a squad with you as a shooter. The gap grind had a very challenging course of fire. And again, I haven't been there in years prior. So this is, a sample size of one. The pros pretty much, for those that were there, weren't there, had 6 to 9 inch targets majority of the time. We were shooting 1 MOA targets out to 900 and a lot of KYLs, and where the pros had the amateurs had 2 to 2.5 MOA targets, that they engaged. And at first I was super bitter about it because I was like, man, now I'm at the mercy of the accuracy of my rifle and my ammunition. I truly have to be shooting a bench rest gun because, sometimes I can get my wobble zone within, that 10th that I need to. But now I'm at the mercy of my gun shooting that as well, which I've been to matches where, my rifle wasn't shooting that great, but the target sizes allowed for, that wiggle room. Anyways, but I also appreciate it because, it helped me grow as a shooter. And that's one thing that, I would tell my students that would come to class. If you came to one of my classes and, I set up a course of fire for you and you just cleaned it, I'm doing you a disservice, right? Because I'm not pushing you out of your comfort zone. And that's one thing that I appreciate about this course of fire is that it definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. And it showed me what I was capable with a rifle in 2024, right? Because again, 6 years ago, the targets were not this small, other than maybe again shooting KYL racks. But I felt like I was shooting every stage was a KYL, every stage was a KYL, which is again great because it just shows the proficiency levels of shooters nowadays. I mean, the winner, Ben Gossett, dropped, I think, 10 shots all weekend. And he cleaned day 2 of the AG Cup a couple years ago when I shot it. So again, it's super cool to just see the proficiency of shooters in terms of their capability, knowing their rifle and all these things in 2024. And it's to be able to translate that level of proficiency or that just that understanding to even just the average shooter, it just makes them better at understanding their system and, understanding what it actually takes to shoot at that level. Because I think even if we're able to grasp that, what it takes, it just inherently makes us better, depending on the amount of time that you're able to commit to shooting, right? If you're able to, tighten up your wobble zone by, 0.1, especially as a hunter, it just allows you to just be more lethal or effective when you are, hunting. Same thing goes for being an active duty sniper. If you're able to, shoot sub MOA targets, out to 600-700 versus the, full size silhouettes that, you shoot in the military. Again, this is speaking on previous experience. I'm not sure how it is now. I'm just speaking on my time when I was a sniper. There's just more, how much more effective you can be on the battlefield as a active duty sniper. So it's just cool. It's just cool to be able to grow as a shooter and as an instructor and to be able to talk about it and again, hopefully dissect and peel back the layers of those top performers of hey, what are they doing that allows them to, be consistent at that level? And again, with my limited time and resources to compete at a high level, how can I try to, manage my expectations, but also get to, a point where I'm close to that level, right? Very interesting. Real quick, I want to shout out to all of the other shooters, other than obviously the ROs that did come up to me and thank me for all of the content that I've been pushing out there recently, or that have been following me for a while. Again, I've been creating content in the precision rifle space since 2017. And so, I know I've got a long time list of followers. I've got new followers. And so I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to, go out of your way if you guys recognize me with the man bun and be like, hey, I appreciate your content. That goes a long way, because it kind of, I have my moments. I have my moments of imposter syndrome and like, what am I doing? But it's those moments that kind of like solidify, like, okay, I do need to be pushing out more content, just because, and here's my reasoning, just because I know it's going to eventually make its way back around to the sniper community, right? If you guys have heard me talk in other podcasts, and my first episode, my why is like going back and giving back to the sniper community the best way I can. And because it's like a full circle, when I started this, my aim was to the sniper community, and organically I picked up a lot of civilian followers, regular riflemen, which is awesome. But I know that you, as regular riflemen that are listening to this, that eventually, a year from now, or 6 months from now, or 3 months from now, you're going to get that young sniper that squads with you. I hope that you're able to take that young sniper under your wing as a mentor, as some of the shooters in the civilian world did for me when I was a, sniper instructor, and, show me the way of like, hey, I understand this is what you're taught, but like, this is the reality of like, what's being, not just taught nowadays, but like the reality of like, the performance of how to drive a rifle and the techniques used. It's just going to make that sniper so much better at a job. And I know it starts with you guys at the local level. So I definitely appreciate you guys watching my content. And yeah, I just know it's going to come full circle. So huge shout out to Brian, again, my best friend, for coming out there and filming. He got a lot of great photos of that event. So if you were in our squad 14, awesome squad. I will link all the pictures in the YouTube description. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, like, where's the link at? Go to the YouTube description, and you'll find the link there to all the pictures that he took. And we're going to be chopping up a long form video with that. Hopefully it'll be out by next spring with all the video projects that I've got going on. But there's a lot of that go into video production, posts, in terms of storytelling and whatnot, all these things that I'm learning. And depending on how well we did with our pre-production, it's going to show how well we're able to execute the actual production of the film. So yeah, my squad 14 was awesome. Squad 14, we had the Peterson guys, the Peterson cartridge guys. So my teammate Nick Schnur, he works for Peterson, and then we had David there. And again, I've been using Peterson brass just recently from the Eagle Eye ammo stuff, and I'm super impressed with their 6.5 stuff. But not only that, I really had a great time with the Peterson guys. They're just down to earth people. It's cool to see the staff out there going out and competing, and just seeing what the shooters are doing, and just, again, seeing what's capable, because that, like, to me, is how a company grows, is to just see, like, hey, how is their equipment being used at the highest level? So again, I'm not sponsored by Peterson, but because of just the positive interaction that I had with those guys at the match, and even before that, I've had really great interactions with Peterson. But it just makes me want to buy a bunch of their brass and support those guys, and just give them any kind of feedback that I can to help improve their product, because it goes without saying when they're out there, like that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to, figure out ways that shooters at a very high level are using their stuff and how to improve on it, or also how to give back to the community. So shout out to the Peterson guys for, again, just being genuine, good people. One of the things that I learned over the weekend, and I've experienced this before, so I'm really surprised that I, didn't catch onto it earlier. But essentially, on check-in day or on the train-up day, so at K&M, you're usually able to shoot the check-in day or zero, as well as like tune-up and shoot the props and stuff like that on the main firing line. And I highly recommend that if you've never been to K&M. That way you're able to just kind of see and get a feel for different props, where you want to place your bag, what position you want to use, But I knew my game plan because we were going into that rifle or into that match with rifles already, or with the rifles having a few rounds down the barrel. I wanted to at least clean it during check-in day. That way, we were only going to be shooting 200 rounds down it, because I wasn't sure how many rounds we were going to practice with. But because of how hot it was, we ended up only shooting 40 rounds to practice. So the barrels only ended up having, from what we shot in Cody to what we shot on train up day, like 80 rounds. So I scrubbed it with Bortec, and that's what I brought down with me. So I scrubbed it with Bortec after the line was closed, and then when it reopened from like 4 to 6, we were still there, and I had myself and Dakota to confirm zero, but we only shot 10 rounds to confirm zero, and that showed its ugly head, reared its ugly head 6 stages later, or 70 rounds in, when my barrel sped up, and it, I noticed it when we were shooting. So we started on the movers, and on that mover stage and leading up into that, most of the targets were only like 600 yards and in. And here's the thing: it's like most of the times you're not going to notice a velocity difference with your point A and point A impact, or your dope within 600 yards. You're going to start to see it after. And so I think the KYL rack, I'm not sure, I think it was right around 700 from the helo. You got to shoot big to small on the left side, move to the right side, shoot big to small, so 10 rounds. And I was missing high, like 2/10 high. And I ended up getting a 5, which kind of just mentally ruined my day because I was shooting decent up to that point. But I was trying to look at my ballistic solver to see, okay, hey, what happened? Is it because I didn't true my velocity or my bullet? Because I didn't want to true because of how soupy the distance target was that day. Anyways, and this is what's super cool about the Garmin Zeros, is the fact that I'm able to strap the Garmin Zero onto my rifle for a stage. And so that's what I did the next stage, which was the mover stage inside the Connex at the 700. And I strapped, shout out to William Ryder for letting me borrow his Garmin. And I strapped it on, and little did I know, I gained 30 feet per second from my initial velocity that I got after cleaning. Again, I know. So like, okay, hey, 20 to 30 rounds, I'm going to season the barrel before doing any kind of velocity testing, even after completely a scrubbed barrel. So that definitely cost me a few points. And actually both Dakota and I both sped up, because initially after the first cleaning, we were just about the same in terms of velocity. And then even after, those, I think 6 stages, we had climbed to the same exact velocity, because I had him do the same thing on that stage, is just check his velocity. So I did want to, I know I'm all over the map here, but I did want to talk about the travel to get to the gap grind and flying with a firearm, because I think it's important, especially with the PRS finale coming up, for those that have never traveled with a firearm that are coming out from the East Coast to Idaho. So let me touch on that real quick while it's at the top of my head. So as you guys are getting ready for the finale, or if you've never traveled with a rifle, it's super simple. And I do want to do a YouTube video about this. And so here's some spark notes from, my experiences traveling as a professional competitor as well as instructor, flying all over the states with it. Number one is, once you get to your ticket agent, you let them know, hey, I've got a firearm to declare, and they're going to have you fill out a declaration form, and they're going to ask you, is the rifle unloaded, which hopefully it is, and you say yes. And they're going to ask you if the ammunition is packed in its original packaged containers, which hopefully they are. And typically, if I'm shooting factory, then I'll just obviously leave it inside the factory boxes. I've also put my hand loads in factory boxes. It helps for packing a little easier. So that's why I sometimes save factory ammunition boxes. Or I just use the 50 round hard plastic cases. Those are a lot better than the 100 rounds, just because you're able to kind of just fit those better in the rifle cases and pack them better. From my experience, I haven't needed to use TSA locks. I just use, regular master locks that are keyed, or even a padlock via, like a combo, and just two of them, right? I know I've heard some airlines needing or requiring, to lock every lock that you have available to your case. I haven't experienced that, but if you are worried about that, then just bring an extra set of locks inside your carry-on. But again, I just have only needed two, as long as their rule of thumb is, for the airlines that I've been, is as long as you can't stick your hand inside the case when it's locked. Again, you don't need TSA required locks or approved locks, but if you are not using TSA approved locks, when you go to get your rifle inspected after checking it into the travel agent or the ticketing agent, you have to be there to open up the case for TSA. And the biggest thing that I'll say is, like, just don't be an asshole, right? Like, I've traveled all over the world with rifles. I shouldn't say all over the world, but at least, to the UK, and all of my experiences have been fine. I know sometimes guys on Facebook are posting up their horrible experiences, and I know some shooters can be pain in the ass, and it takes two to tango. But I think it just starts with you just being a genuine person, and just understanding that they're trying to do their job based off of what information that they have, and sure, they deal with a lot of knuckleheads too that are not maybe competitive or professional shooters, that just give them a hard time. So as long as you're a nice person, and you treat them with respect, like, you shouldn't have any issues flying with your rifles. I flew from Memphis, California, like all places where, you would think like gun laws are super strict. But I haven't had any issues with either TSA or the ticketing agent when checking in my rifle cases. So that's a pro tip for you. So when you go to TSA, you open up your cases, and they'll inspect it, and then you'll lock it. And one thing I do recommend is, especially if you have an iPhone, putting an AirTag in your soft case. That way you can track it to make sure it's making it on the plane. Out of all the trips that I've ever had, it was only one time, is when I went down to Altus, because I had to catch like 3 different flights. There was only one time in my experience that I've ever not had a rifle make it to the destination the same time I did. I know that's, sample size of one person. I know other shooters, have had nightmares where, the rifles didn't make it at the same time. But also give yourself some breathing room when you are going to check in, right? Like, don't show up 45 minutes, like right at 45 minutes, because especially if you've got to get your rifle checked out from TSA, every airport's different in terms of that location of where their X-ray scanner is at. So I at least give it on the bigger airports at least 2 hours prior, because I'm local here and the Cody Airport's small. I check in 1 hour prior, and I have no issues getting through the Cody Airport. So that's just, again, my 2 cents in experience with traveling with a firearm. So take it for what it's worth. And again, hound me on it, and drop a comment if you want me to do a video, which I plan on doing, because I do have a lot of behind the scenes of like packing my rifle case and just optimizing it for a precision rifle match. One thing I did want to talk about, again, I know I'm all over the map here. I just recently had a conversation with a former student of mine, former sniper school student. And, he's kind of getting back into the swing of things with regard to a precision rifle and wanting to kind of start teaching at the local level because he's been getting a lot of requests. And that's something that like I see that is, I think, beneficial to the precision rifle community is more instructors, to where they're able to, put together a small little program for their local shooters, because you're seeing it now with the growth of the sport. The local shooters are going to go to those, pretty much local top performers and pick their brain, right? But, we say this time and time again, just because you're really good at doing something doesn't mean you're going to be a great teacher, right? And it's very rare that, you could be a great teacher and a great shooter at the same time. But anyways, this former student of mine, he was getting back into the saddle of things, and he was asking me like, hey, what kind of benchmarks do you have for like what like you would deem as like proficient behind a rifle? And like, it got me really thinking about like, okay, well, what is that instructor's like level of proficiency, and like, what does he know? So I'd ask him like, hey, like, what have you participated in, whether it be like a competition or like what, from, your time as a sniper, your time as an instructor for, that period of time. And, I kind of already knew the answer to that question, which is just like, hey, what the Marine Corps would teach, or what courses of fire that the Marine Corps has done up to that point, and maybe one competition. But when you go to your one competition, sometimes you just forget about like, hey, what was I actually being asked to do in terms of like focusing on specific training objectives. And so I'm relating this back to when I was first teaching at cyber school before I got into the competition scene, and my buddy Nick Bazone and I would go shoot out in the desert, and we'd go out and we'd bring steel out to the desert. It would take us like 3 hours to like go down there, set everything up, and then we would just lay on our belly and shoot like a known distance course of fire to validate our dope, and then maybe some like tripod stuff. And that was it. Like we'd shoot maybe like 30, 40 rounds, 50 rounds, and then we'd pack up, all that steel off the range and go home and this is again pre-competition days. And we would just do what we would do in the units, which was shoot a known distance and unknown distance course of fire on our bellies, rapid bolt manipulation and rapid target engagement. And that was all we knew. And so, and I think that's one thing that's missing in the precision rifle community is like a standard of like, hey, if you've been to like a intro class or a foundation class, like what is your, level of proficiency? What should be your level of proficiency, right? Because like every instructor's baseline and definition of capable is different, or in performance. And so it just got me thinking of like, as a competitive shooter, I know that when we go to a match, like we're looking at, okay, how many shots did we fire? Not necessarily, how much do we stack up against the winner, but how many shots do we fire and how many impacts do we get? And that is pretty standard when you first start competing. But I would say what I would do is look at specific training objectives with regard to like what you're being tested on and start from there. So for instance, let's say we've got a troop line, right? It's a standard troop line, engaging 5 targets with 2 rounds each, right? And if I peel back the layers of like what that troop line is asking from me, this is how I'm going to look at that. Number one is it's testing me on how I'm able to quickly and efficiently build a prone firing position. Number two, it's testing my ability to dial my dope and engage known distance targets with extreme precision and accuracy. Number three, it's testing me to engage, 2 to 3 MOA targets in X, whatever wind conditions they are, right? To within, a tenth or two of my wind call. 3, it's being able to test my ability to manage recoil, to spot my own impacts, right? And so you guys got to see what I'm getting at. It's not just a troop line. I'm looking at this from like, okay, these are 5 different hard training tasks that I can actually touch and be like, all right, instead of just going to the range and shooting a troop line, how can I isolate every single one of these before going to the main event like Bowser, right? And I think by doing that, you'd be able to have a better understanding of what should be a good benchmark for success or progression. And so if you don't know what you should be at, I would look at, especially if you're a hunter, look at I would start with, okay, hey, what are the different scenarios that I've been in to engage a target? And, what would I've done differently, as well as, how can I make sure that if I had to recreate that shot, I could shoot it faster, right? Or I can shoot it, further, right? And that would be a good starting point. So there's a lot of things that, as me and this instructor were talking, and my student were talking, that kind of like had my brain wrap around like, okay, like if I were to stand up a, training company tomorrow, like this is what I'd probably focus on with regard to, training standards. So I think there's going to be value in potentially diving into kind of an instructor development type, podcast series where like it's almost kind of like a train the trainer. That's something that I've always wanted to do, is as much as I'm passionate about teaching like basic entry level stuff. I think as a teacher, I know that like my growth sometimes I feel like has stunted because I'm not challenging myself of like, okay, hey, how do I create another instructor that is able to teach, the way that I teach. I'm not saying that I teach really well or the best, but I feel like I've figured out a way to teach precision rifle shooting to the lowest common denominator. And hopefully that doesn't come off as arrogant. But I want to challenge myself to see if I'm able to teach that to somebody else. And number 2, I say this all the time, is like, how do I make a good shooter and turn them into a monster, right? Like somebody that like is consistently performing at a very high level, wherever they go. So, circling back to the benchmarks, every time I pick up a precision rifle, for me, like my thing is like, I should be able to pick up a rifle and engage any target out to, let's say, 1,000 yards. That's still this kind of standard, right? A 10-inch plate in whatever mile an hour wind conditions. Like that is my ultimate goal behind a rifle. Like just to be like, okay, that's the wind call. This is the dope to this target, and this is the firing position that I have, and I'm going to be able to shoot a 10-inch plate with one shot. And will I get that 100% of the time? Absolutely not, right? And every caliber is different, right? Like with a 6.5 Creedmoor, I could probably get that, up to, let's say, 20 mile an hour winds, probably like 30% of the time. If it's like 0 to 5 mile an hour wind conditions, I could probably get that like 90% of the time. But you see where I'm getting with this. Like if I picked up a 308, I know my percentage of that, it goes down, right? So there's a lot of factors that go into, understanding the performance of a, not just the capability of a rifle system, your ammunition, but I think for me, that's the beautiful part about like the precision rifle sport as a whole, whether you're a hunter, sniper, competitive shooter, is like knowing that like, when I pick up a 7 PRC, this is what my performance standard should be. I should be able to manage recoil off of a tripod shooting a, 2 MOA target at 600 yards, because that's my ethical range of shooting something at, right? For a military sniper, it's being able to pick up a 308 that weighs 17 pounds. and be able to gauge a human-sized target out to 800 yards with one shot. As a competitive shooter, being able to get into the prone and engage a 10-inch target at 1,000 yards with one shot. All these things. So off my soapbox there, I think there's a lot to peel back the layers on, and I'm excited to hopefully dive into that more and share my experiences of what I've found with you guys. But yeah, hopefully you guys got some value out of this podcast. I know it kind of jumped around a bit. But I've got exciting for you guys news that I'll probably share next week on next episode, which next episode will actually be my birthday. So anyways, appreciate you guys listening in. Let me know what kind of value you guys got out of this, what kind of stuck. Again, tell me what you guys want to hear about. And yeah, if you haven't done so already, check out some of the YouTube videos that I've been posting with regard to the Whiteboard Wednesdays. I just recently did one of my really good friend Will Orms and Thomas Reed, former student of mine. And I think there was a lot of to dissect in both of their videos from a competition standpoint. So we'll see you guys in the next episode. And remember, you have control.